The emergency council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from across the galaxy hurried to their seats. Admiral ZYX-Tar of the Hegemony adjusted his ceremonial armor with 3 of his 4 arms while scrolling through reports on a holographic display with the 4th. The news was impossible to believe, yet the evidence was right there in glowing blue text. "Order! Order!" boomed High Chancellor Vortak, his massive bulk causing the reinforced platform to creak. The reptilian leader's scales shifted from deep purple to an alarmed orange as he addressed the assembly. "We are here to discuss the situation with the humans." A collective shiver ran through the chamber. Even mentioning humans these days made everyone uncomfortable. "Let me get this straight," interrupted Counselor Pip, her crystalline form chiming with agitation. "The species we've been monitoring for barely 200 galactic cycles, the ones who just figured out faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, have somehow built ships that make our dreadnoughts look like toys?" Admiral ZYX-Star's eyes all focused on his display. "According to our intelligence reports, yes. The human vessel designated Defiance single-handedly disabled an entire Hegemony patrol fleet yesterday, without firing a shot." The chamber erupted in panic chatter. Various alien languages mixed together in a symphony of confusion and fear. "Impossible!" screeched Ambassador Clickthra, her insect-like mandibles clicking rapidly. "Our patrol fleets have dominated space lanes for millennia. Each ship carries enough firepower to glass a small moon. The Defiance used some kind of field generator," ZYX-Tar continued, his voice tight with professional embarrassment. "Our weapons simply stopped working. Our shields flickered out. Our engines went dead. The humans didn't even respond to our hails. They just left." High Chancellor Vortak's scales had shifted to a sickly yellow-green. "How many crew were on this Defiance?" Scans indicated 12. Silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. 12 humans had neutralized a fleet of 60 ships carrying over 10,000 of the galaxy's finest warriors. Counselor Piptha's crystalline body flickered with stress patterns. "This can't be right. We've been watching Earth for centuries. We know exactly what they're capable of. They're barely past nuclear fusion. They still use chemical rockets for most of their space travel." "That's what we thought too," said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. Everyone turned to see Dr. Millicent Wong, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council, walking calmly to the center of the room. She was small by galactic standards, standing barely 5.5 feet tall, with graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the standard diplomatic uniform, nothing fancy, nothing threatening. The entire chamber fell silent. A few representatives instinctively reached for weapons that weren't there. The council chamber was strictly neutral ground. "Dr. Wong," Chancellor Vortak managed, his voice cracking slightly, "we weren't expecting you." "I'm sure you weren't." She smiled pleasantly, the kind of smile that somehow made everyone even more nervous. "But when 60 warships surround one of our vessels in neutral space, we tend to notice." Admiral ZYX-Star's forearms tensed. "Your ship attacked first. It disabled our entire fleet." "Attacked?" Dr. Wong raised an eyebrow. "Admiral, your ships had weapons locked on the Defiance for 17 minutes before Captain Martinez activated the field. That's hardly what we'd call an attack." "Field?" Counselor Piptha leaned forward, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. "What kind of field could possibly disable our technology?" Dr. Wong clasped her hands behind her back and began walking slowly around the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the tense silence. "Tell me, honored counselors, what do you know about human philosophy?" The question caught everyone off guard. Ambassador Clickthra's mandibles clicked nervously. "Philosophy? What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything, actually." Dr. Wong stopped walking and faced the assembly. "You see, you've all been making a fundamental error in your observations of humanity. You've been watching our technology, our weapons, our ships, but you never bothered to understand how we think." High Chancellor Vortak's scales were now cycling through colors so quickly they were almost strobing. "Dr. Wong, with respect, thinking doesn't disable plasma cannons and void shields. Doesn't it?" She smiled again, and this time there was something almost predatory about it. Let me ask you something. How long have your civilizations been spacefaring? The hegemony has controlled space for over 50,000 years, Admiral ZYX-Tar said proudly. The Crystal Confederation has existed for 30,000, added Pipta. And in all that time, how has warfare evolved? The question hung in the air. Finally, Ambassador Clickthera spoke up. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, better armor, the same as it always has. Exactly. Dr. Wong nodded. You've been fighting the same way for millennia. Bigger, stronger, faster. It served you well against each other because you all think the same way. But humans, she paused dramatically. We don't think like you do. Counselor Pipta's form flickered with impatience. What's your point, human? My point is that while you were building bigger guns, we were asking different questions. Not, how do we build a stronger weapon? But, why does the weapon work in the first place? The chamber was dead quiet. Dr. Wong continued her slow walk around the room. Your plasma cannons work because they accelerate superheated matter using electromagnetic fields. Your shields work because they create energy barriers that deflect or absorb incoming attacks. Your faster-than-light drives work by manipulating space-time itself. She stopped and looked directly at Admiral ZYX-Tar. But what if someone could manipulate the fundamental forces that make all of that possible? The Admiral's 4 eyes went wide. You can't mean the electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, gravity itself. Dr. Wong's voice was calm, almost conversational. What if someone could simply turn them off? The implications hit the assembly like a physical blow. Chancellor Vortak's scales had gone completely white. That's impossible. The fundamental forces are constants of the universe. Are they? Dr. Wong pulled out a small device no bigger than a smartphone. This is what Captain Martinez used yesterday. We call it a universal field disruptor. It creates a localized area where the fundamental forces of physics can be adjusted. She pressed a button on the device. Immediately, every piece of technology in the chamber flickered and died. The artificial gravity shut off, leaving several representatives floating helplessly. The lighting went out, plunging them into darkness except for the dim emergency bioluminescent strips. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. Representatives crashed back into their seats as gravity returned. Of course, we keep it on a very low setting for diplomatic meetings, Dr. Wong said pleasantly, tucking the device back into her pocket. At full power, well, let's just say Captain Martinez was being very gentle with your fleet. Ambassador Clickthera's voice was barely a whisper. How long have you had this technology? The theory? About 3 years. Working prototypes? 18 months. Ship-mounted systems. Dr. Wong shrugged. The Defiance was our first field test. 3 years. Admiral ZYX-Star's voice cracked. Impossible. This kind of technology should take centuries to develop. Dr. Wong's expression grew serious. Admiral, you're still not understanding. You keep thinking in terms of your own development cycles. But humans don't work like that. When we set our minds to something, we don't just make incremental improvements. We change the entire game. She gestured to the chamber around them. Your ancestors built this council chamber to last 10,000 years. It's impressive, solid, built to stand the test of time. Very admirable. But humans, she smiled. We would have built it to be modular so we could completely reconfigure it every few years as our needs changed. Counselor Pipta's crystalline form was pulsing with stress patterns. But the reports from Earth, your species is still using primitive technology. Chemical rockets, fusion reactors, projectile weapons. For civilian use, yes. Why improve something that works perfectly well for its intended purpose? Dr. Wong's tone was reasonable, like she was explaining something obvious to a child. We're not wasteful. But when we need to solve a specific problem, she patted the pocket containing the field disruptor. We solve it. High Chancellor Vortak had regained some of his composure, though his scales were still a queasy green. Dr. Wong, surely we can discuss this reasonably. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for thousands of years through careful balance of power. If humans possess technology that makes all of our defenses obsolete, then maybe it's time to stop thinking about defenses, Dr. Wong interrupted. That's another thing about human philosophy, Chancellor. We've learned that the best way to win a fight is to make sure it never happens in the first place. Admiral ZYX-TAR leaned forward. Are you threatening us? Threatening you? Dr. Wong looked genuinely surprised. Admiral, if we wanted to threaten you, would I be standing here explaining our technology? Would Captain Martinez have simply disabled your fleet instead of destroying it? The truth of that statement sank in. The Defiance could have annihilated the entire Hegemony patrol fleet. Instead, they'd basically given them the equivalent of a gentle tap on the shoulder. Then what do you want? Chancellor Vortak asked. Dr. Wong walked back to the center of the chamber. The same thing we've always wanted. To be left alone to develop in peace. To trade freely. To explore the galaxy and learn about other species. She paused. And to not have 60 warships surrounding our vessels every time we leave our home system. Ambassador Clickthra's mandibles clicked nervously. But if your technology spreads, it won't. Dr. Wong's tone was firm. This technology requires a very specific understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional physics that took our greatest minds decades to develop. More importantly, it requires a particular way of thinking that... She looked around the chamber. Well, no offense, but most species don't seem to possess. Counselor Pip the flickered with indignation. Are you saying we're not intelligent enough? Not less intelligent. Differently intelligent. Dr. Wong's voice was diplomatic but firm. Your civilizations have thrived by building on tradition, by improving existing systems gradually over time. This served you well for millennia. But humans are chaotic. We're constantly questioning everything, tearing down our own systems and rebuilding them from scratch. It's probably why we nearly destroyed ourselves half a dozen times before we reached the stars. She pulled out the field disruptor again, holding it up for everyone to see. This device exists because a human scientist named Dr. Sarachin got frustrated with her coffee maker one morning and decided to completely reimagine how matter and energy interact at the quantum level. She wasn't trying to revolutionize warfare. She just wanted better coffee. The chamber was silent for a long moment as the implications of that statement sank in. Finally, High Chancellor Vortak spoke. Dr. Wong, what do you propose? Simple. Update your threat assessments. Stop treating humans like primitive newcomers who need to be watched and controlled. Start treating us like humans. She tucked the device away again. We're not going to conquer the galaxy. We're too busy arguing with each other about politics and sports. We're not going to share our most dangerous technology with anyone who might use it irresponsibly. And we're certainly not going to attack anyone who leaves us in peace. Admiral ZYX-TAR's forearms were trembling slightly. And if someone doesn't leave you in peace? Dr. Wong's smile turned cold. Then they'll discover just how creative humans can be when we're properly motivated. The silence stretched on until Ambassador Clickthra finally spoke up. What about the Galactic Council? Our whole power structure is based on military strength and technological superiority. Maybe it's time for a new power structure, Dr. Wong suggested. One based on cooperation instead of dominance. Trade instead of tribute. Mutual benefit instead of fear. Counselor Piptha's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. That's not how things have worked for thousands of years. Then maybe it's time for things to work differently. Dr. Wong spread her hands. Look, we didn't ask to upset your galactic order. We just wanted to explore space and maybe find some interesting alien cultures to learn from. But if the choice is between being conquered and defending ourselves... She shrugged. Well, we're very good at defending ourselves. High Chancellor Vortak's scales had finally settled on a resigned brown. What guarantees do we have that humans won't abuse this power? Dr. Wong laughed, a surprisingly warm sound in the tense chamber. The same guarantee you have with any other species, Chancellor. None whatsoever. The difference is we're being honest about it. She began walking toward the exit, then paused and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. Captain Martinez asked me to mention that the Defiance has two sister ships currently undergoing trials. The Persistence and the Audacity. I thought you might want to update your threat assessments accordingly. As she reached the chamber door, Dr. Wong called back over her shoulder. The offer for peaceful cooperation stands indefinitely. But so does our commitment to defending ourselves. I'll let you decide which future you prefer. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the Galactic leaders sitting in stunned silence. Finally, Admiral ZYX-Tar spoke up. Well, that changes everything. Everything, Chancellor Vortak agreed, his scales now a deep, thoughtful blue. Send a message to all fleet commanders. Human vessels are to be treated as diplomatic traffic. Full honors. No aggressive postures. What about our military superiority? Ambassador Clickthera asked, her mandibles clicking nervously. Counselor Pip's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. What military superiority? The humans just made it clear that they can turn off our weapons with a device the size of a communication pad. Admiral ZYX-Tar was already composing messages on his holographic display. I need to brief the Admiralty. This changes our entire strategic doctrine. It changes more than that, Chancellor Vortak said gravely. It changes everything about how we think about power in this galaxy. As the emergency session broke up and representatives hurried to contact their home governments, one thought echoed through every mind in the chamber. Humans weren't supposed to have ships like that. But they did. And now everyone had to figure out what that meant for the future of galactic civilization. 3 hours later, as reports flooded in from across the galaxy, one pattern became clear. Every major power was reaching the same conclusion. Fighting the humans wasn't just inadvisable. It was essentially impossible. The age of human expansion was about to begin, whether the galaxy was ready or not. And somewhere in deep space, the crew of the Defiance continued their peaceful exploration mission, completely unaware that they had just accidentally conquered the galaxy by demonstrating that sometimes, the best weapon is the one you never have to fire. Captain Elena Martinez stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching through the viewport as the massive space station came into view. Galactic Hub 7 was one of the largest trading posts in this sector, and it should have been bustling with ships from dozens of different species. Instead, it looked almost deserted. That's weird, muttered Lieutenant Jake Chun from the navigation station. According to our star charts, this place should be packed with traffic. Maybe they're having a slow day, suggested engineer Rosa Santos, looking up from her console. Or maybe they heard we were coming. The bridge crew chuckled, but Martinez noticed the nervous edge to their laughter. Ever since the incident with the Hegemony Patrol fleet 6 months ago, human ships had been getting interesting reactions wherever they went. Incoming transmission from the station, announced Communications Officer David Park. They're requesting we dock at berth 7. Berth 7? Martinez raised an eyebrow. That's the VIP section, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. Reserved for diplomatic vessels and high-ranking officials. Martinez sighed. Patch me through to station control. The main screen flickered to life, showing a nervous-looking Hegemony officer. His forearms were trembling slightly as he spoke. Welcome to Hub 7, Captain Martinez. We have prepared our finest accommodations for your crew. That's very kind, but we're just here for supplies and maybe some shore leave. Any regular berth will be fine. Oh no, Captain. We insist. Please, dock at berth 7. Our station commander is eager to meet with you personally. Martinez exchanged glances with her crew. In the old days, before the incident, human ships were lucky to get permission to dock at all. Now everyone treated them like visiting royalty. Very well, berth 7 it is. Defiance out. As the transmission ended, Chief Science Officer Dr. Lisa Zhang looked up from her station. Captain, I'm reading some unusual energy signatures from the station. It looks like they've installed some kind of new defensive systems. Defensive systems? Martinez frowned. Hub 7 is supposed to be neutral territory. These aren't pointed outward. Dr. Zhang continued, studying her readings. They're pointed inward, toward the docking bays. The realization hit Martinez like a cold wave. They're not trying to keep threats out. They're trying to keep us contained if something goes wrong. Lieutenant Chun turned from his station. Should we abort the docking, Captain? Martinez considered it for a moment, then shook her head. No. If we start avoiding every station that's nervous about us, we'll never be able to trade anywhere. Besides, she patted the small device on her belt. What's the worst that could happen? 30 minutes later, Martinez walked through the station's main corridor with Dr. Zhang and Lieutenant Chun flanking her. The usually crowded marketplace was eerily quiet, with most vendors keeping their distance and whispering among themselves. Captain Martinez! A booming voice echoed through the corridor as Station Commander Vex the approached. The large, bear-like alien wore ceremonial robes that probably cost more than most ships, and his entourage included guards from at least 6 different species. Commander Vex the... Martinez replied with a polite nod. Thank you for the warm welcome. The pleasure is all ours. Please, you must allow me to show you our finest establishments. We have restaurants, entertainment venues, cultural exhibits. As they walked, Martinez noticed something odd. Every shop they passed was either closed or had signs reading, temporarily unavailable, or inventory update in progress. Busy day for maintenance, she commented casually. Commander Vex, this fur bristled slightly. Yes, well, we want everything to be perfect for such distinguished guests. They reached the station's central plaza, which normally would have been filled with traders, tourists, and travelers from across the galaxy. Instead, it was almost empty except for a small group of beings huddled around a news display. Reports continue to come in from across the galaxy. The news anchor was saying, the hegemony has announced a 30% reduction in military spending, citing changing strategic priorities. The Crystal Confederation has proposed a new treaty framework based on mutual cooperation rather than military deterrence. And the Trade Guild has begun offering preferential rates to human merchants. One of the beings watching the news noticed Martinez and her crew. He immediately tapped his companions, and within seconds the entire group had scattered. Commander Vex cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we should continue the tour. As they walked toward the commercial district, Dr. Zhang leaned close to Martinez and whispered, Captain, I'm picking up encrypted communications all over the station. Someone's coordinating something. Before Martinez could respond, a new voice called out from behind them. Captain Martinez! What a pleasant surprise! Martinez turned to see Ambassador Clickthera approaching, her insectoid form clicking rapidly across the deck plating. Behind her were several other beings that Martinez recognized from intelligence briefings, high-ranking officials from various galactic powers. Ambassador, Martinez replied cautiously. I wasn't expecting to see council representatives here. Oh, we were just in the neighborhood, Clickthera said, her mandibles clicking in what might have been nervousness. Routine diplomatic business. Nothing important. Dr. Zhang's voice was barely audible as she spoke into her communicator. Bridge, this is Zhang. We may have a situation down here. Commander Vex stepped forward, wringing his hands. Captain, perhaps we could speak privately? There's something we need to discuss. Martinez looked around at the assembled officials, the empty plaza, the closed shops. Let me guess. This isn't really a coincidence, is it? The aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. Finally, Ambassador Clickthera spoke up. Captain, we need to talk about the situation with human expansion. What situation? Martinez asked, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew. In the past 6 months, 17 new human colonies have been established. 23 exploration ships have been launched. Your trade volume has increased by 400%. Clickthera's mandibles clicked rapidly. The balance of power in the galaxy is shifting. Martinez blinked. We're exploring and trading. That's what spacefaring civilizations do. But not like this. Commander Vex's fur was standing on end. Your ships go wherever they want. No one dares stop them. Every planet you visit ends up signing exclusive trade agreements with Earth. Because we offer fair deals and don't threaten anyone, Dr. Zhang interjected. That's the problem. Ambassador Clickthera's voice rose to a screech. How are we supposed to compete with fair deals? Our entire economy is based on controlled scarcity and territorial monopolies. Martinez rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. So you're upset because we're being reasonable? You're destroying thousands of years of carefully maintained balance. Commander Vex the gestured wildly. The hegemony used to control mining rights in the Outer Rim. Now every asteroid miner wants to deal directly with humans because you pay better and don't demand tribute. The Crystal Confederation's trade routes are being abandoned, added another official Martinez didn't recognize. Merchants would rather take longer routes through human-protected space because they don't have to pay protection fees. Martinez looked around at the group of agitated aliens. So let me get this straight. You're angry because we're treating people fairly, paying honest prices, and not threatening anyone. Yes, several voices said at once. And you want us to, what exactly? Start threatening people? Demanding tribute? Taking advantage of weaker species? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Ambassador Clickthera spoke up. We want things to go back to the way they were. Before humans started changing everything, Commander Vex the added. Martinez felt her patience beginning to fray. The way things were was terrible for most of the galaxy. Small colonies living in fear of raiders. Traders being extorted by every faction with a few warships. Entire systems cut off from galactic commerce because they couldn't afford protection fees. But it was stable, Clickthera protested. Everyone knew their place. Their place at the bottom of your boot, Dr. Zhang said dryly. Lieutenant Chun, who had been quietly observing the conversation, finally spoke up. What exactly are you proposing? That we stop exploring? Stop trading? Go back to our home system and pretend the galaxy doesn't exist? The aliens exchanged glances again. Commander Vex cleared his throat. Actually, oh, you've got to be kidding me, Martinez said. It would solve everyone's problems. Clickthera said quickly. The galaxy returns to its natural order. Humans avoid any unfortunate conflicts. Everyone wins. Martinez was quiet for a long moment, looking around at the group of aliens who were essentially asking humanity to voluntarily exile itself from galactic civilization. When she finally spoke, her voice was dangerously calm. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You're asking us to abandon our colonies, recall our ships, and isolate ourselves in our home system, because our presence is making it harder for you to exploit everyone else. When you put it like that, it sounds bad, Commander Vex mumbled. It is bad. Martinez's voice was getting sharper. You're literally asking us to accept exile so you can go back to running protection rackets. It's not a protection racket, protested one of the unnamed officials. It's a carefully balanced system of mutual benefit. Dr. Zhang snorted. Mutual benefit, right? I'm sure the colonies being protected see it that way. Ambassador Clickthera stepped forward, her mandibles clicking urgently. Captain, please. You have to understand our position. Your technology makes resistance impossible. Your economic practices make competition impossible. Your very existence is reshaping galactic civilization. Good, Martinez said flatly. The word hung in the air like a physical presence. Several of the aliens stepped back. Good. Commander Vex's voice cracked. Your galactic civilization was a nightmare for anyone who wasn't strong enough to defend themselves. If our presence is changing that, then I'd say we're making the galaxy a better place. But what about us? Clickthera's voice was almost a whisper. What happens to our civilizations? Martinez softened slightly. The same thing that happens to any business when better competition shows up. You adapt or you become irrelevant. That's easy for you to say. You have ships that can disable entire fleets. And we've never used that capability aggressively. Not once. Martinez's voice was firm. Every colony we've established was on an uninhabited world. Every trade agreement we've signed was voluntary. Every exploration mission we've launched has been peaceful. But for how long? Commander Vex the demanded. How long before humans decide they want to rule the galaxy? Martinez reached into her pocket and pulled out her field disruptor. Every alien in the group immediately stepped back, several reaching for weapons that weren't there. You want to know the truth? Martinez held up the small device. Humans could have conquered the galaxy 6 months ago. We could do it right now, today, if we wanted to. But we don't want to. She tucked the device back into her pocket. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to trade. We want to make friends with interesting alien species and see amazing new worlds. Ruling a bunch of resentful subjects sounds like the worst job in the universe. Ambassador Clickthera's mandibles clicked nervously. But if you change your minds, then you'll deal with that problem when it happens. Just like you deal with any other species that became aggressive. Martinez shrugged. The difference is, we're being honest about our capabilities instead of hiding them. Dr. Zhang stepped forward. You know, there is another option. All eyes turned to the science officer. Instead of trying to maintain the old system or asking us to go away, you could try adapting to the new reality. What do you mean? Commander Vex the asked suspiciously. Compete on merit instead of force. Offer better services instead of protection rackets. Build your economies on value creation instead of extraction. Dr. Zhang spread her hands. Join the new galactic order instead of fighting it. The silence stretched on as the aliens digested this suggestion. Finally, one of the unnamed officials spoke up. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, Martinez admitted, but it's possible, and it's better than the alternative. Which is? Martinez's smile was not entirely pleasant. You keep trying to maintain systems based on threat and coercion, and eventually someone decides to call your bluff. And then you discover that your threats don't work anymore. The implications of that statement were clear to everyone present. The old galactic order was maintained by the implicit threat of force. But what happened when force was no longer an effective threat? Ambassador Clickthera was the first to break the uncomfortable silence. This is a lot to consider. Take all the time you need, Martinez said. But while you're considering, remember that the galaxy is changing whether you like it or not. The question is whether you want to be part of that change or be left behind by it. She turned to leave, then paused and looked back. Oh, and Commander Vexta? Next time you want to have a diplomatic meeting, just ask. The secret gathering with hidden agendas thing is kind of insulting. As the human crew walked away, the assembled aliens stood in stunned silence. Finally, Commander Vexta spoke up. Well, that didn't go as planned. What did you expect? Clickthera's mandibles clicked with resignation. They hold all the cards. So what do we do now? The ambassador looked around at the empty plaza, the closed shops, the news displays showing reports of human expansion across the galaxy. I suppose we learn to play by new rules. Meanwhile, back on the Defiance, Captain Martinez stood on the bridge watching Hub 7 recede into the distance. Her crew was busy preparing for their next destination, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Captain, Dr. Zhang appeared at her elbow. Everything all right? Martinez sighed. I just wonder sometimes if we're doing the right thing. What do you mean? We came out here to explore and make friends. Instead, we seem to be accidentally conquering the galaxy just by existing. Dr. Zhang considered this. Maybe that says more about the galaxy we found than about us. Maybe. Martinez watched the stars while past the viewport. I just hope we can figure out how to build something better than what was here before. We will, Dr. Zhang said confidently. After all, we're human. Building something better is what we do. Martinez smiled despite her worries. Let's hope the galaxy is ready for it. Behind them, Hub 7 grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. But the conversations that had taken place there would echo across the galaxy for years to come, as civilizations old and new struggled to find their place in a universe that suddenly worked very differently than it had for thousands of years. The age of human expansion was no longer just beginning. It was well underway. And ready or not, the galaxy was changing.